Hey, welcome back to our podcast, Crankshaft. Today, I am here joined with Fingar Sensei and Caveman, and my name
Hello.
is Roderick.
Hello.
And this week, we're going to be talking about a fun little movie called Troll Hunter. Now, I wouldn't call this the peak of horror, but I thought it was a nice little campy film that took place in Norway. Had a bunch of Norway actors, actresses, and comedians. So let's just start off with talking a little bit about the actual characters that were introduced in the movie. We had Hans, who was the actual troll hunter. So it was actually the role of the character was Hans, and the director actually picked up Norway's most famous comedian, Otto Jespersen, which I actually thought was kind of funny that they would bring a comedian for a very serious role as a troll hunter, but because he had a sort of dark humor and had that grunginess going to him, I thought it was a pretty good role for him, honestly.
That's mostly where the comedy comes from in this film. It's still a horror, but it's a lot of absurd scenarios essentially just being dealt with straight face. It's not we got to throw in a comedic line here or there. It's legitimately just something absurd happens. Hans is just going, yeah, another day in well, while the when we get into it, he basically has like a film crew, but it's just three film students from a local college that thought they were getting one story and then another, but it's just like he's just dealing with everything straight face. He knows what he's doing. He's the expert in his field. And the three people just filming him are just like half the time freaking out or just like not really understanding what's going on. So that's mostly where the comedy comes from.
Yeah. What do you mean? I thought it was a documentary and he just retired to become a comedian.
Yeah, what I definitely thought was really interesting about we can start out with the actual start of the movie here, but like I really thought it was interesting that it took place in Norway and how popular it actually got as a movie, even being a foreign film. Probably thanks to Netflix, honestly, a little bit of YouTube, but overall, I think the movie was put in a good direction, and I wish we could see more about it. But yeah, so the movie starts out with three college kids trying to do a little research on a bear poacher that is in the area, as a group of like bear hunters are basically talking about like, hey, yeah, we earned our licenses. Why couldn't this person earn theirs? And these kids go to research and find the person who's the poacher, and they will come across Hans. I don't really care about the actual other characters too much, so I'm not really gonna go with their names because Hans was the main focus of the movie, anyways.
Yeah, like he was the main focus of it all. Granted, the other characters too is like you had your main person there with the microphone and everything in the movies called Thomas. You had the one lady working the boom mic, just sound and everything, Johanna, and I believe the camera guy was called
Kale?
Yeah, it was like Kali
okay,
or the.
Yeah, it was
like
Kale.
Collie or something. So there's only three of them just going around trying to do this documentary. Again, the whole assumption that they have is this guy is just a bear poacher doing something really illegal. They're wanting they're doing a quote unquote documentary type thing just to find out why is it you're doing this? You know you're doing something illegal. Why do it so blatantly out in the open? Because even after interviewing all the few other people that have a bear hunting license, they make it clear it's like it's not a license everyone can get. The small amount of people that have it, we all know each other. We all know where we're at, like where we're based out of and whatnot. So to just throw in a random element all of a sudden, it just brings it into a bit more chaos because it's just like, what exactly is going on? He's being more open about the bear poaching to the point where, in certain aspects, you can make the argument that they are just stalking him just to try to constantly get up to him and say, "Hey, we just want to ask a few questions. Hey, we just want to ask a few questions. Why are you doing this? What's going on here?" And Hans just doesn't want anything to deal with them because this is a person experienced in the field that he's doing later on when we find out what he's actually doing, and he's just jaded to that point where it's like, I don't care. I'm just focused. I'm just doing a job.
I got 1 week left for retirement. I might as well just let you guys know what's going on. Yeah. Fengar, so during the start of the movie, what was your opinion of each character?
Well, my opinion on each character was a bit different because like everyone else kind of seemed a little less serious and like not really paying any mind to the attention, but like Hans straight out of the gate was just like super stone faced, like serious, and was like, "Don't interview me, leave me alone," to the camera crew and like all that, and just was ignoring them. And everyone else was just kind of being more casual about it, um, like when they interviewed the wildlife expert person, he was just like he came across as like clueless at first, a little bit, and just kind of like so like matter of fact, like, oh well, they say that because like the hunters were saying like, oh, bear tracks don't look like this or whatnot, and he was like, well, I mean, what else could it be? Because I mean, and realistically, if you're thinking about it, I mean, yeah, if you see a dead bear and tracks all around it, you're not going to think, oh, this was some troll or something, because like in the context of the movie, no one believes in trolls, um, except for the people who know about them for the most part.
Yeah,
Um,
because this was also going around where they were having people being killed, people going missing too. So the easiest answer was just to say it's a raging bear or something like that as the most realistic answer.
mm,
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so what? When they finally start sort of talking with each other and finally start interacting, they track. They finally follow his tracks. He runs out of the forest just screaming troll, which
And mind you, this is also like as they're trying to follow him through like dirt paths and everything, going past these gates, opening up and just throwing a sign across that just says danger, government blasting zone, mind you. So like what is he doing? We're gonna catch this guy, being a bear poacher and everything. Just as they're following him, going through the woods and just seeing, lights flashing in the sky, he runs down and just yells out trolls as everyone just starts running to, not knowing what exactly is going on.
that scene
And
really reminds me of the Harry Potter Sorcerer's Stone. There's a troll in the dungeon. And then he falls over.
oh yeah, there's a troll in the bathrooms. And just immediately faints. But
Yeah,
it
I
sort of
just
has
thought
that
that was
same feel to
hilarious. Yeah, it felt like that scene when I first saw it. I was just like, Harry Potter reference.
yeah, but no, like, and that scene, that one cracks me up a little bit because it was like, realistically, this could have the movie could have
Yeah.
ended really quickly and like abruptly there, just like freaking explosions going off, like government just shooting off like tanks or shooting off like mines or some shit like that, and they just end up getting fucking blasted on the like before they even get down there, and because that was like the second time they tried to follow that guy. First time they lost him and whatnot, and then the second time they were just like, oh well, government blasting zone, let's go here. Like none of them had the common like would have had the foresight to think, oh well, maybe this isn't a great idea to go here.
Right. But yeah, when they finally sort of ran off and um, yeah, all that happens. I thought what was interesting is like from the very start of the movie when you first see him, they have a huge focus on his Jeep slash Land Rover Norwegian mix between the two cars. And it had a bunch of like lights all around it and on top of it, and I honestly really like the style of car that he was driving. First of all, but second of all, with all the lights, I thought it was really interesting. Sort of making that a focus, and when it finally sort of about reaches them after they're running, and him sort of freezing it with the lights, finally sort of explains all like, okay, so like these things can be defeated with light, and they do exist, which is even crazier.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily just any type of light. It has to be a high-powered UV light because they later do on explain, and even at the beginning, he's going off saying, "Yeah, trolls exist, all this stuff." Myth, like all your fairy tales, aren't necessarily true in an aspect, but a lot of them do hold water. Like
Mhm.
trolls, you can easily stop them or subdue them in a sense with sunlight because myth wise, if they get hit by the sun, they turn into rocks.
Yeah.
Or
Happens too
explode.
fast, they can explode. Well, that's whenever it happens too fast. They later sort of explain that in a somewhat realistic stance of, like humans and everyone else, we're out in the sunlight, we absorb vitamin D. The troll's body doesn't really have that kind of mechanism to absorb that and transition into what they need. So whenever they get too much, it just straight up kills them, turns to stone, explodes, all that stuff.
I thought it was like so. What I actually enjoyed the most was that first interaction with the trolls. Is you never actually see the troll uh, at the very start. So basically, like they all run and everything. One of them gets bit or slashed. I'm not sure.
I believe bit.
Yeah, but I thought it was a very clever choice to hold on to like not revealing what trolls look like just yet. I thought that was a very clever choice. Now, like in the the next sort of mini arc scene, when they go out to look for the troll again as a group once they get his permission, and he says, you have to follow what I say. I think that was a clever choice to sort of delay showing the troll because like it makes you as a viewer want to sit and watch and prepare to see the trolls. Now, visually, I thought how they did the trolls in this movie, even though they were like 3D monsters, I still thought that it was pretty decent looking for the budget that they had. It wasn't a trash budget. Let's be honest. 3.9 mil is what I think it was.
If I remember let me double check real quick, but it should be an estimated about 2 million USD because it was about.
Knock 19 mil, 3.5 million budget. So
Okay.
overall, like that's not a bad budget. And the box office they made 4.2, so they ended up making a profit. So it wasn't like this was like a flop in the box office. So good for them on that. Um, but I definitely can say, with a 3.5 million budget, which includes like actually paying the actors, all the cameras, because cameras are expensive. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
um,
But granted, they also had the benefit of they didn't really need to do a lot of this stuff on like a green screen or a stage too,
yeah,
because it was all filmed in that one area, like in Norway.
yeah, and I mean honestly, like Norway's locations are beautiful. We kept like throughout the movie, I kept being like, yeah, that's cool. That's a cool view.
I want to move there.
Yeah, like almost made you want to move there because like how nice it looked. But the constant rain reminded me of where I used to live.
Yeah, I could see that. It reminded me of like when I visited like Seattle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but I have to give them the benefit of that too, because even yes, it was constantly raining, or just even the outside atmosphere, the skies, and everything had that sort of dreary feel to it.
Yeah, that
But it
misty
helped.
feel. Yeah, it did
Yeah,
help in
it
like
sort of helped.
giving the eeriness that they were aiming for in the movie.
Yeah, because like even going along with them at the beginning after that first interaction, they're still trying to figure. It's like, wait, you're saying trolls are real? All this stuff? They keep trying to harp on him. It's like you said troll out there. What do you mean by this? You thought you were bit by a bear or something out there? What do you explain? What happened to your arm? And they're even though the camera crew is not really still believing it yet because again we haven't seen anything. It was just a noise and a whole bunch of lights. Even when they go back to like the camping site, it's like let's make a phone call just to let our university know where we're at. It's like
Yeah,
why? What's wrong? You think he's dangerous? No, he's just as far as they're believing. It's like this is just a weird guy, a weird bear poacher who is now believing delusions of trolls. And that is essentially until they finally see it for the first time and they just go, they're real. Holy crap. Because that's the whole main focus at the beginning. It's just, first it's a bear poacher. Now he's rambling off about trolls and all these different things. Like, okay, he's probably, been hit in the head or something type mentality until, oh, he's telling the truth.
yeah.
And then slowly seeing this web of people, like very few individuals, but this slow web of people that know what's going on, that is helping with.
Finn, for example, being basically the equivalent for Americans would be like a wildlife commissioner for the country. It's just like, oh yeah, because like the trolls actually like attack cattle and people. He's just like, yeah, it was a bear, and then there's like this group of people that like hunt bears or grab bears from like certain areas, and will like dump them off, and it's like, see, here's the bear, and it was shot.
Yeah, I believe it was supposed to be disguised as like a Polish painting company too, but
Yeah,
even they don't really know what exactly. Like I
yeah, they were just paid to get the bear.
like
They don't know.
yeah, just a bear cadaver, and even in the one interaction, which is like this isn't a Norwegian bear. It's close enough. No, unless someone really looks at it, they're not going to tell. You wanted a bear, we got you a bear. But even they don't really know why they're selling these bear cadavers. It's just, hey, it's money. Even during that little interview part, it's just, well, we're not told why. We just get paid a lot of money to do this, so we don't really question what's going on here. So, hey,
Yeah, it was a Croatian bear.
Croatian got
Yeah, I remember that because they were all Russian and they were like Croatian, close enough.
it.
But
But you even have that. And,
I was just saying that yeah, that fucking that like painting crew people, the ones who brought in the bear, they were just like my fucking favorite because they were just so like goofy,
yeah,
but it just felt natural for them. They're like, oh yeah, no, we're not paid to ask questions. We're just paid to do what we do.
yeah, exactly. So I think overall, um, between that and basically like those once he starts killing these trolls, he starts sort of explaining a few different things in the movie about the trolls, about the people, and a little bit about like everything else. And I thought that was interesting how they sort of move along the plot that way.
Oh yeah, especially harping on, there's reasons certain fairy tales are said, like are spoken the way they are, but that if these people also want to continue going with him, one big thing he kept harping on was no one could be a Christian. And this wasn't taken at an angle for any sort of specific reason. I'll have to look into it. It might have to deal with like the folklore of the trolls or anything, but it was just they can smell the blood of a Christian man.
Yeah, I think
So
I
you
think it's like Norwegian folklore that we're just maybe we just don't know about. But yeah, it felt like they definitely were harping on that a lot. Um,
well, because he, especially Hans, was going in this with the mindset of he is a hunter, just like you would try to hunt any other thing, hunting like any of that stuff. You want to cover like one big thing they had was a concentrated troll musk, just so they can smell like a troll. It's like, why do you want to smell so terrible and everything? So then they won't notice me and then just won't care as I get close, like either trying to kill them, push them back, take a blood sample, all this stuff. If I smell like a human, they're just going to attack me. If I, you know, smell like a Christian man, they're going to attack me. I use this to cover myself. Full on hunting mentality for it, which is honestly great. Whereas you see other movies in the same aspect of we're going to hunt this creature or whatnot. It's just people going into the woods with guns, cocked and ready to go. This one is a bit more subtle because it's still going into the woods trying to hunt and track down these creatures. But it's like, okay, we got to look for signs, got to look for tracks. Trees get knocked over, anything, boulders get moved out of place that weren't there before. We're on the right trail. Got to cover ourselves up
oh yeah,
slowly.
the massive trap that he was pouring like concrete and charcoal on. We never saw anything about that rest in the movie. He's just like, yeah, this is a perfect troll trap. See, you put charcoal and concrete in the middle. It's like a bear trap, but it's meant for a troll. And then they just refuse to talk about it in the rest of the movie. It's like, yep, that's what it's for. But it's never used. And I was just like, okay,
It's a bit disappointing, I understand, but that's also nice where you still have other things going on.
yeah.
Because he even one notion was just like trolls love to eat rubber, so he just carries around a whole bunch of rubber tires on that he would place in certain markers. And on one other occasion, went to go check one. It's like this one hasn't been chewed on yet. That means they haven't broken out of their territory. So this area is fine for now. That's not really explained, but it's just like, yeah, all right, yeah. Having to place tires in specific areas, open fields, underneath a bridge, go for that full stereotype or whatnot of them being under a bridge, which even that pays off later on. But it's just the simple things, and even just that, just here's a giant trap, some concrete, charcoal. We'll come back check this later.
Hmm.
Hasn't been messed with, so let's just keep moving on.
Um, let's see here. Immediately after the first troll dies, yeah, he sort of starts to begin to open up towards them, sort of explain the situation. There was that scene earlier where he was asking if anyone was Christian, and they were all like, no, 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 absolutely not. And
One guy was just like, I was forced to sing in the choir when I was a kid, but I didn't like it.
yeah, and skipping a little ahead because there's a few different troll scenes that we can talk about. Fortunately, I thought what was nice about this movie was that like there was not one troll; they had multiple, and they had multiple hunting scenes for different ones. But the bridge one was probably everyone at least I think favorite scene in the movie slash troll in the movie. because it was like during like when it became night, the guy was bringing out like goats or sheep onto the bridge.
No, they were goats.
Okay.
Because that was a reference to like Scandinavian folklore in that old story of three billy goats gruff.
Yeah. And
Fun fact
like
for everyone.
brought like that, and he's in like this metal suit.
Full on like junkyard
Yeah,
metal suit.
junkyard night.
He was like a knockoff Iron Man without all the like pew pew gear or electric. And so go ahead.
I love that scene mostly just because of how nonchalant he is about it. It's not for him. He's not even taking that part seriously. It's just more or less a, I hate this part, but gotta get this troll's blood
And
Yeah.
because we gotta get it tested and see what's going on. It's not like, all right, I want you guys to stand here. There's not like a scene where he's putting on the suit. It's just he putting the goats out on the bridge. The camera crew's watching this bridge as the goats are going after it, and one gets taken away. And then they just turn back, and he's already in the suit. And this part, let's go.
what I thought was funny is he's just like, I got this Christian blood here. Don't ask me how I got it. And he starts pouring it on the fucking bridge, and the thing comes out. And I think that this was my favorite scene of the entire movie was where like he tries to like prod it, and it sort of like moves slowly out of the way, and it just like backhands him into the freaking bridge wall, and he just crumples.
Yeah, you were expecting like some kind of like little badass, little like fight scene with him, or him just like grabbing it and like managing to get away. But no, the troll just fucking grabs him, snatches him up, and then slams him down.
Yeah, tries to bite his helmet off. It doesn't work. It just throws him back down. Jumps back down under the bridge, and they're like, "Oh God, is he dead?"
And they check up on him, and he's just like, I'll be okay."
Just don't hit the red button
And then
because the suit has a red button on it.
and then he like they hand him the syringe back down, and he goes under. And I believe Thomas tries to follow him.
They, if I remember
he
correctly,
falls
they're still they're still above them. They didn't go down into the valley like where they're underneath the bridge. They're still looking at it from an angle because they don't know what's about to happen. He's just going in with a suit and what looks like strapped all around his waist is just like first glance you would probably think it's pipe bombs, but it later turns out to just be like flashbangs
Yeah.
that just make the troll explode in blood and guts and stone.
And
So they just get
that
covered.
just happens like off screen, but it explodes. And he's like, got the blood sample.
Off to the veterinarian.
And just a series of like odd moments. Sort of moving forward a little bit. Just gonna quill over like the mountain troll scene real just quickly. It was
Oh yeah.
like it was okay. It wasn't really long, so that's why I'm just gonna mull through it real quick. Basically, they go into this cave.
Abandoned mine, I believe it was.
Yeah, it was abandoned mine. Um, they're like, well, we can't see I mean, the trolls are definitely here, but they're not here. And then as they begin to leave, like a bunch of trolls are just outside walking in. They're like, all right, time to go further in.
Time for bed,
And
essentially.
all the trolls were just basically going to sleep. And the cameraman is just rubbing copious amounts of that troll funk
Sticks.
on.
Slowly freaking more and more out because they're just trapped in a little hole. Like the entry to get out of this hole into this main lair area for the trolls being halfway blocked by a troll that wouldn't go to sleep, as well as several others. So he's slowly freaking out. Several scenes where he's just taking this fun and just rubbing it vigorously, like all over himself. close to hyperventilating. The other two, somewhat in that aspect. Hans is just, trying to get some sleep
Dude,
because
yeah,
it's
he
like,
was
oh
he was
well,
sleeping. He's like, oh, fuck it, I'm here, whatever.
we're stuck here. Might as well just.
And
And then,
what I thought was funny is uh, when he's finally like, I'm Christian. And he's just like, you better not be sweat, or you better not be trying to sweat at any time soon. And
as he's just getting hyperventilating,
then like the trolls finally notice them. They try to run out of the cave, and Kale gets like eaten.
he
Yeah,
gets captured and eaten.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
gets
He doesn't
killed.
come out.
And then they pick up the camera, which is like broken. They're like crying. And then like the next scene, they're like, "Hey, we got a new camera person, and she's Muslim. Is that okay?" And he's like, "I don't know, maybe."
Let's find out. But I'm just going to assume for that scene that it was probably either a few days to a week after.
Yeah,
You don't really can't really tell the timeline that much. But even though like that initial scene, they're outside of the mine, and Hans is just like, this is what I meant. Whenever going on about this is a dangerous job. I'm heading back down here. If you want, just drop you off, and you guys can go back to university. Can what are you guys gonna do? And then that next scene of they're at a train station. We got a new camera woman coming in today. And just that whole thing. It's like, oh yeah, I was on the BBC, nature wildlife documentaries and all that. It's like, okay, are you a Christian? Huh?
yeah.
It's like, are you a Christian? Do you believe in Jesus and God? It's like, I'm Muslim. It's like, Hans, she's Muslim. Is that okay? Let's figure.
I did find it kind of funny. His nonchalant answer there was like, "I don't know, whatever."
I don't know. We'll see.
Well, because probably, at least for the folklore, just went with that one thing. It's like it's just Christian. They can smell the blood of a Christian. It's like, well, what about Muslims? Like, we never tested this before. And then for
the science guy.
basically, because then even the new camera woman, she's like, yeah, did film work for the BBC nature documentary. It's like we'll just be filming like, what was it that she said she thought they were going to
Like
be
elk
filming
or something.
like woolly elk or
Yeah, she thought they
stuff
were
like.
film like some like nature documentary.
Yeah, and she's like, we're just filming these animals, right? It's like, not exactly. And then slowly trying to break her in. It's like, wait, you guys believe in trolls? What? It's like, trust us on this. Just keep going. Let's trust us on this.
Yeah, like she just brought back like the disbelief that people like that the normal person has so late into the movie.
Yeah, so
And
the
then,
final scene they were sort of explaining that like because the last one that they're hunting for is a Jotun, or they're so tall, but how would they normally deal with them is the overhead power lines are like a fence. And so they go to the power station. They're like, all right, we got to figure out which power station's broke, and they sort of figure out where it roughly might be, and they're like, all right, tonight we're gonna hang out at this lodging that's with the TSS was Troll Secret Service.
security service.
Security
No,
Service,
it's,
sorry.
it's Secret Service.
Fair enough.
It was, yeah, but either way, um, they were like, yeah, we're gonna stay at this lodge that's owned by them, and then they start hearing it. They're like, all right, well, we got to take care of this thing, and it's really tall. It was like 100 meters or something tall.
Oh, yeah. Like, it even had that notion to it. They're all in the cabin just talking for a little bit. The, hold on. Let me just pull up the names real quick again.
But they did
But
learn that Thomas got rabies from the troll after the
in their first encounter.
veterinarian. And so the reason why all these trolls are going out of their normal habitats is because of rabies.
Yeah, it's because this Jotun that they're hunting down has rabies, passed it on to all these other trolls that have been slowly breaking out of their territories, and including the one that bit Tomas as well. It's like, oh, great, you got rabies. they're rightfully freaking out. It's like, I need to go to a hospital right now. It's like, once we're done, we got to take care of this.
Yeah.
Right? But again, just bringing up that whole nonchalantness about it. It's just like, you got rabies. Okay, that's what we're dealing with. Troll with rabies. I'm sort of glad in that aspect because it wasn't anything trying to be
A
mystical
mythical
about it.
disease. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just, again, treating them like animals and creatures out in the wild. It's like, something's wrong. What is it? Oh, it's rabies. Okay, we got to take care of this right now. Because even a scene before that, when Thomas, camera's still on Han trying to talk, it's like, you really feel uncomfortable every time you enter into a troll's territory. Is there a reason behind this, or was there just like a bad experience you had? And Hans goes on saying, like, this is probably the only time we've had a definitive date set in stone, but like back in the 70s, whenever like the Norwegian government wanted to expand into this one particular troll territory just to build like road tunnels in a certain direction, him and the TSS were trying to say, no, you can't do it. What about nature and all that stuff without really saying like it's trolls or whatnot, but the government and contractors didn't care, did it anyways. So he had to go in and essentially massacre all these trolls living in that territory. And it led a bad experience in his head because it wasn't just, the males, but it was the females, even those that were pregnant, kids that were barely just born and everything. He had to go in by himself. It wasn't like there's a whole group of troll hunters out there. He's just the only one that's been doing it for,
Yeah.
I'm going to say, probably 30, 40 years.
Well, he was the only Norwegian troll hunter. They did like specifically say that, which I thought was interesting. So like other countries had other troll hunters for them, but just for Norway, it was just him, and he was a Navy Ranger, is what they said at one point.
Yeah. That was simply recruited because, hey, you're good at your job.
And so yeah, one thing throughout the entire movie though, at this point, Thomas or Tomas was constantly complaining about his shoulder, and you finally learned, oh, okay, so he has rabies. And during the final fight scene with the Jotun, they like try to like change him a bunch of times. They outrun him. The car flips towards the end, and you see Hans just like walk out with like his backpack and this sort of like shoulder rocket propelled thing.
Yeah, it's like a
Like,
light
what?
rocket launcher.
And he's just like, yeah, go this way to the highway, and then he starts sort of walking off into the distance, shoots it. It turns into like stone, breaks apart, and he's just walking off into the distance without even saying goodbye or anything. He just like walks off like a badass.
Just in the Norwegian wilderness, snow and everything. It's fitting for his character because he just didn't care anymore.
Yeah, then he
Because even one notion was just like, why don't anyone know about this? Like, well, there's people that don't want this to be known. Oh, it's the government. Do you work for the government and all that stuff? Is like, you know, does that really matter at this point? It's like, okay, then why are you showing all this stuff now? It's like, this is a shitty job. No rights. I get no nights, like no bonuses, no nothing, no compensation.
no
I get
benefits.
nothing. I am just told, go here, deal with the problem.
Yeah.
And what does that give me? Just bad reputation on TV of being a bear poach in that.
No overtime either.
Oh God, no. Because then even after that whole incident, Jotun, turns to stone.
Yeah.
That case of rabies is now done.
They start
The
walking
camera
towards the highway as the instrument.
yeah, with the camera crew and a seismologist picked up because
Yeah, just ran
that was
as they could.
well, it was more than likely, and story wise, it was just a seismologist sent out there because hey, we're getting no. It said so on the radio how they recorded about 1,000 like small earthquakes in that area. So it's more than likely he was out
trying to figure
Yeah,
out what was going on.
yeah. So, and he was even rightfully freaked out too because, oh God, what if?
Yeah, he had no idea what it was in the first place. No one even told him.
Yeah, he was just sent out there. It's like we're recording all of like these small micro earthquakes in this area, about a total of 1,000 or so. What's causing all this? Is there like movement under the earth type things? So as they're trying to walk towards the highway, next thing you know, it's like, oh, we have two black vans coming this way, and that's more or less just the animal like wilderness forestry service guy back in because he's knows about all of this. Even says at the end of all this, I'm going to just come take your tapes, which the camera crew realizes like, oh, we're basically going to go missing now because our protection just walked away.
Yeah, the MIB is coming after us.
So it's just like grab a camera, start running until Tomas is just the last one left, makes it to the highway, and then it just cuts off right as a 18-wheeler is driving close by.
Yeah, and then it was just like none of these people were seen again.
If you have any
Let
information,
us know.
please contact your local police department. They have not been spotted yet.
Yeah, and the final scene was just sort of like the Norwegian president talking about the existence of trolls, and the person next to him just sort of wide eyes looks at him, and then it cuts off, and like no one talked about it.
If I remember that correctly, that was an actual like scene
It wasn't.
with. It wasn't him talking about trolls specifically. Let me double check. But they have a look. I believe it is a. Yeah, there is a
He was
place that
betrayed
they
and
call the
ridiculed.
Troll Oil and Gas Fields.
Oh, okay, that's funny.
So it was edited
Hmm.
to where it sounds like there are trolls and all that stuff, but he was talking about the Troll Oil and Gas Fields.
Yeah, that's really
They
funny.
just
They
just edited it, yeah, to just include their one character that they had wide-eyed and says trolls are real. And I was like, oh. But that was just dealing with like energy and electricity and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they got permission to do such a thing just to go along with it. But
Yeah.
the troll gas fields, natural gas and oil fields that Norway has located in the Northern Sea.
So, going off of it, I want you guys to rate a few things about the movie, and then we can give final thoughts. So, the first thing I'd like you guys to rate from 1 to 10 was the sound. So, like how they were recording everything, the noises of the trolls, the music. From 1 to 10, how would you rate the sound design?
I would give it actually a solid 8 because it was realistically sounding for concerning the equipment that they had. And there were like even moments where like the sound was like muted almost a little bit because the like audio recording system that the girl was constantly carrying around got like knocked around or hit or something. She had to like fix it real quick, and then the sound comes back to like normal. And so I think it was done well considering the kind of like it really made it sound like it was actually recorded and used, and was using like the equipment she had.
I I would have to probably give it a 9, like a little bit better because again, they were all filming on location. It wasn't just in the sound screen. Especially the ending part where they're confronting the Jotun, and it's just that scene, car gets knocked over, the audio is a bit more muffled and everything because they're having the Jotun screaming that's sort of over clipping the entire audio track that's going on too, which makes everything else more muffled. Dealing with all that, they thankfully didn't go the route of trying to add in, background music during tense scenes or when they're running wood. They added music. There was none unless they turned on the radio, and that was like an outside source of sound. Because usually for found footage films that go in that aspect of this is real and whatnot, they always try to pepper in, tense music scene here or a string moment when there's supposed to be a jump scare. This didn't really do that. So I'm really appreciative of that, both in the sound aspect, music aspect, and also how they recorded talking to people and even the dialogue just felt natural of, kids going up to people saying, wanting to go for an interview, just talking.
Yeah, I
It
definitely
wasn't
felt
and
like even the recording of like their feet. I thought like everything overall was. I'd probably give it an 8.5, but like yeah, I think that they did a pretty solid job on everything that they did with the muffling of the mic. When they bumped into each other, you could clearly hear like the mic getting scrunched,
oh yeah.
running through the woods. Occasionally, it like ran into like a tree. They kept that sound in of it like ramming into like the brush or something like that. I really appreciated their choice of doing that.
Oh yeah, even the sounds of the rain jackets they had on moving around too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And to be fair, this is probably just me catching on to it, but there was audio wise, there was probably one goof that I noticed, which was after their first encounter, they get behind the truck, the Jeep, and he just flashes those big lights and it instantly turns the troll into stone. The next scene, they're basically trying to yell for Johanna, who was still in the woods. But if you notice for a split moment there, you hear the other people sort of like behind the truck, like freaking out, crying a little bit, and you hear a woman like making the same noise, or just like huddling there, just crying a little bit, just freaking out. So that was fun.
Yeah. All right.
If you ever want to go back and just listen to that scene again, it's just like, wait, she's here, and then all of a sudden, where's Johanna? It's like, wasn't she just here? I heard a female voice. So that
All right.
probably just me.
Overall rating of the movie then.
I'd give the overall rating of the movie. Mm. Considering it, like it was like one of those movies that it was so silly that you couldn't take it seriously in some aspects, but even still, like the way it, like I enjoyed it, so I would say I'd give it like an 8 out of 10 as well. Like it wasn't like some like huge hit movie that like I'm sure everyone would enjoy kind of thing. It was silly, and it's like you probably like not everyone's probably going to enjoy it, but it was just like one of those movies that I was like it was so bad it was good kind of thing.
Yeah, I definitely would give it a. I'd probably actually give it an 8.5 out of 10. Honestly, no, I can't say this was top of line, but like realistically, for being a foreign film, for the budget that they had and what they worked with, I honestly really liked it. Um, so yeah, I'd probably give it a good score on that.
I'm personally going to be biased on this whole thing because this is one of my personal favorite movies. The minute this popped up, I remember back in 2010 when this first came out on Netflix and everything, just wanting to watch something. It was interesting, and I just completely loved it. And then recently, a place you guys can find this at YouTube movies in the free section. This is on there. It's essentially the reason why we're doing this review on this because popped up a few days ago in their free section, and I just sent it to Roderick and Finger. It's just like we are reviewing this right now because this is free, and you guys have heard me talk about this movie for years, and now we have a chance to watch this.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I am
I
full
overall
10.
appreciate that it was free, but I would still pay to rent this movie, knowing like how it was. So overall, like yeah, no, it was a fun experience, and I can't wait to see hopefully a sequel in the future. I know they canceled it, but I hope that they work with the director and the studio actually decides to throw out a sequel.
I will say that bridge scene was a 10 out of 10 when he got the suit of armor.
Absolutely,
Just another day in the office.
100% 10 out of 10. Like that was the peak of the movie. I'll be honest. So, what I would like to say is thank you for everyone for being patient with us. We are going to be try to be a little more consistent with our reviews. Either we're going to be releasing. I believe what my goal is going to be throwing out a podcast every 2 weeks. Just to give us like 1 week to research the movie and 1 week to like watch and record it. But I'd like for us to be a little more consistent.
Oh yeah,
I do
there's
have a suggestion in mind that
So
I got.
it's my turn this time. But
we've had a suggestion list, and that's been
yeah,
gotta dust that off now.
I will do the a suggestion. You can be the next one after mine, but because I've recently learned since we're on the topic of trolls, I thought it would be a good idea to make. So I was gonna do Onibaba, which could be a good choice, and we'll talk about it. So next week we will either, or the next one we will either do Onibaba, which is a Japanese horror film, or we could do a fun one called Trolls 2.
You're not talking about the DreamWorks one, right? That was terrifying enough the
No,
first
no,
time.
no, no,
This is the 1990.
no. You're
No,
gonna
no,
absolutely
I think I know what you're talking
you're gonna
about.
absolutely love this movie. It's definitely a horror movie. Nothing comedic could come out of that movie.
Oh my god!
So we thank everyone for joining us today, and we thank Ents Gaming for being supportive of us and allowing us to put out our work. If you want to support us, support their Patreon, and that will help us look for more movies in the future, and you can give out recommendations on there. You can go on our Discord, which is Ents Gaming, and find us there. But hope you all have a great week, and we hope you guys stay spooky.
Oh, most definitely. You guys want to go camping now?
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.